The latest. Thank you for your love and support. I appreciate you all. When Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso left the ECOWAS bloc, there was this blah 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 about how these three nations wouldn't be able to survive. Some even claim they wouldn't survive up to 6 months because there was nothing left for our all in all, the saviors they protected, Captain Ibrahim Traore as immigrator, and Abdurrahman Chiani to use for the administration. But today, France, that was preaching this, is not changing the tone. According to these French officials, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso leaving the ECOWAS bloc has helped them to progress. The people claim these nations wouldn't survive. But when you look at the statistics right now, these nations are doing extremely well than when they were with the ECOWAS bloc. That when you take Niger, Niger is growing. It has risen to become one of the top producers of uranium. Take Burkina, when you look at the things that are coming from these nations, it is just amazing. They are now stronger than before. Mali and Burkina Faso increasing in gold and hydrocarbon in the region. And when you look at the things that these leaders are doing, it's just too much, because when they were in ECOWAS, they made less. But moving out of ECOWAS helped them to grow, and they keep growing. And people keep predicting that these nations will do exceptionally well, so that it contradicted what they already told the world about these nations not being able to do anything. And though the former ECOWAS chairperson, Julius Maada Bio, claimed that these nations leaving ECOWAS poses a risk to the bloc, it's actually true.
And what are the riches of this region? The riches of this region.
Just to talk about that. Because many people have said Mali, Burkina, and Niger will lose. Yes, in terms of people's mobility, yes, indeed, it's a real problem. Today, we are almost the 5th largest producer of uranium, that's Niger, in the world,
which recorded exceptional growth last year.
One of the leading cotton producers in the world. So here we have Burkina Faso and Mali, invaluable reserves of gold and hydrocarbons in the region.
And we see it because, for example, the Nigerian authorities are in the process I interrupt you, they are also acting to stop the illegal trafficking of gold. Yes, if only we feel that there is still an awakening to first clean up at home so that nothing is imposed on us, and then to also take advantage of these.
Yes, it's
unless there are other foreign powers with interests.
That's also what it's also very important, with a few small differences. Well, another thing that interests me is that ECOWAS is losing the 2 largest countries in its area, Niger and Mali. And still, these are extremely significant populations with the highest fertility rates found in Mali, Niger, and Burkina, respectively. So it's not just, in fact, the things. By the way, there is an article I read recently about Niger's. They did a little calculation as they are in the process. So they did the calculation, and they think, economically speaking, that they have much more Mali too to gain if they are in bilateral agreements than if they remain at the level of the economic community of West African states. Because in fact, they have a trade deficit with the ECOWAS countries, and their main trade, mainly exports, goes outside, and what they import comes from ECOWAS countries, so they might as well import from outside and benefit. Moreover, there is something like a gain of about 120 billion CFA francs for certain countries when they leave the economic community of West African states. I don't know what these statements are worth, but still, there is a thought process behind all this that is extremely interesting. Also, there is also the possibility of using a certain number of contradictory and conflicting reports within the economic community of West African states. And we can see very clearly that the world of the economic community of West African states is not as unified as one might think. That the relations with Togo can be different from those with Nigeria. Mauritania, maybe, well, it is not part of ECOWAS, but it is a very important office in the relationship with Mali for access to the Atlantic. I do not yet know the decision and position of Senegal, which has very significant interest with Mali. Burkina, well, it's a bit more complicated with the Côte d'Ivoire, but it's certain that bilateral relations, because we are in a form of Brexit, African style, but it may be that bilateral relations are much more lucrative for the three countries than...
We notice it, I believe, right away because the positions of this exit are not the same in ECOWAS. You have the latest statement from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Sierra Leone telling us that the withdrawal poses a risk to the entire region. The region saying the withdrawal of these three countries poses a risk to the entire region.
What you just said.
Because when people sit today and look at what these nations are doing, like the recent report I showed you from IMF, claiming now these nations are growing more than even the way people expected. The same people who sat down and told the world that they are not going to do anything are now gaining power, growing in every aspect, taking control over their resources and making sure they use these resources to change their own narrative. But when we look at the ECOWAS nations, like the man is putting up, even the members, when you look at the relationship that they have among themselves, it's nothing to write home about. They also went ahead to talk about how ECOWAS is not there to unify its members. And these things were said by our all-in-all, the saviors, the protectors, that the main reason to which they decided to leave the bloc was this organization called ECOWAS isn't working in the interest of their people, but rather it polices the oppressor. And they don't want to be among a group that is not thinking about the people. We all know that ECOWAS, per what they said, was created to take care of the people in West Africa. But according to these our leaders and even the president of Sierra Leone, the former chairperson of ECOWAS, told the world at Davos that they are protecting borders instead of protecting the people. So, he vindicated the leaders in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso stand of leaving this bloc. And the same people, the Frenchmen, are saying it that there is no unification. There is division among the members. To the point that when you look at the way the relationship is between Togo and Nigeria, Mauritania, that they claim is not even part, you don't see that unification. They talked about Senegal and Côte d'Ivoire. The relationship is not there. They themselves are not united. So if an organization is there and its members are not united, how then will people move forward? And when you look at the reason to which we are seeing that Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are moving forward, is as a result of the unity that they have. They are all doing everything possible to make sure the lives of the people, not only in their respective countries, but the AES countries in general, is beautiful. So why won't these leaders progress? Why won't they move forward? Why won't they become the top? Why won't these leaders and these nations be at the top and be performing better than when they were part of an organization that is full of division, that is protecting borders, so protecting their people? Africa, we tell you, our problem is this division. Until we are able to unite, it will be difficult for us to progress. Unity is the solution to the Africans' problem. And if we continue to sit here and be blaming ourselves, calling for the same people who are oppressing us to come into the continent to do anything for us or to change the situation in Africa for us, it will never happen. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, when they told the whole world about this organization called ECOWAS, a lot of people didn't believe them. A lot of people didn't believe them. Others came out with a lot of things claiming they came into office. They couldn't do what they claimed they are coming to do. So they now need to point fingers at other people. But today, the same people who sat down to sing the songs of the collapse of these countries are the same ones who are singing their praises and telling the world how these nations are performing extraordinary than when they were part of ECOWAS. And when you look at even the things that they are going through, these TT activities, they are busy every blessed day. We are seeing the attacks on their leaders. We are seeing the attacks in their countries. We are seeing the blockade making sure life becomes unbearable. Life becomes unbearable for the people in order for them to rise up against their leaders. They are doing everything possible to stop the AES from succeeding. And as AES is busy fighting all these things, they are still growing. And the people who sit down to preach democracy to us, how they have maintained this democracy from what republic to the other republic, they claim they have peace and they have to protect democracy, are not growing at they are not growing at the speed of the leaders in Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. So we only ask ourselves. So we always have to ask ourselves, do we need democracy or we need leaders who will come in and make sure when we decide to take control over our resources, we fight the big boss in order to gain the power, because without the resources, which is our riches, we can never get to our destination. Now, it is no longer the AES leaders who are preaching about what they are doing to the world. Like they made it look as if we are only praising these leaders for doing nothing. But it is the same people who claim we can never govern ourselves without them are the ones that are singing the praises and telling the difference between AES and ECOWAS. Africa, it is time for us to unite. Our strength lies in our unity. We are the only ones that can set ourselves free. United we stand, divided we fall, and united we keep standing forever and ever. The greatest enemy of the African is mental slavery. So let's decolonize ourselves from mental slavery. Let's keep sharing to educate our brothers and sisters. Together we'll make Africa great for ourselves and the next generations that are going to come. So that's the latest around the world, in Africa, West Africa, and in AES.